Sorry for this little mistake at the beginning. We're on here from my studio at Peabody. I even have my special studio mug for cappuccino with all our cello emojis right here, so I can enjoy it while you ask questions. And thank you all for coming from all corners of the world. Before you write your questions, I wanted to start talking about something that I find really crucial with students and with myself as a player, is of course the relaxation of the left hand. We all struggle through it, hear so many advices about it, and I've come to realization in recent years that really to master the feeling of freedom, one has to be able to play as many overtones, as many harmonics as possible on the cello, and to try to find the connection between the harmonics and the actual notes, and to realize that the difference between harmonic and a note is almost nothing for the left hand. It's a lot for the bow, for the creation of sound, but almost nothing for the left hand. So I have this exercise that I do with my students. We call it overtone walk, harmonic walk. So what we do is we go for a walk on the cello with harmonics, and you do it every day in the morning just to try to find those overtones, those harmonics. And we start with basic 5 notes. Let's say we do it on D string. So we start on G, then we play the A, F sharp, B, and one more F sharp right here. So we have 5 notes. Then we try to master it. So whenever I play those harmonics here, I play fortissimo in the bow close to the bridge. So I'm learning to isolate the 2 hands, to separate them. Then I'm vibrating the left hand. Those are the 5 notes. Now, I'm going to go for a walk on all the strings and do all those 5. As any way you want to do it. Let's say I'll start with G string now. Then I'll cross to the A string. And the first thing, as I said, is to find them and to feel comfortable, to feel gravitated while playing them. I vibrate very gently in my hand, trying to feel that I'm holding an imaginary strawberry between my thumb and the finger that I'm using. And as I go for the walk and I find those notes, I start slowly to find the relationship between the harmonic and the non-harmonic. It's like I like to tell my students, like you holding yourself on a fence and you see somebody that you're not supposed to, but you want to look at them. You do like this on the fence, and that's it. So putting the finger, let's say on the A on D string, is like holding on a fence. And now just lifting myself up a little bit, and here I am. I have a note. Now I can play forte. I can decorate it. I can do anything I want to it, but the note is there and I'm not pressing. I'm still holding the strawberry. So the final stage of the warm-up exercise of this walk, harmonic walk, is to do 4 bows on each note. And as you go to the 4th bow, you land like a good airplane into the note. So you start with harmonic, and then the 2nd note, you go in, 3rd, 4th, 2, 3, 4. And then once you start playing the cello, you realize, oh my God, all this pressure, all those years of pressure, nothing. You don't need to have any of that in your playing. So that's a really great way maybe to start the day, to just warm up. If you want to take it to the next step, you can find other harmonics. So if you go to the B, and just next next to it. The C is also there. And you can play it. You have to be really in tune. And also play really forte with the bow, and then it comes out, so you can find the C, the B. And all of those notes create this feeling of freedom in the hand, which allows you to move freely all over the instrument. So I hope this helps. Any?
So Lazar Kaminsky is asking, how do you come up with bowings and fingerings and find which ones work best for you?
How do I come up with fingering and bowing? So that's the whole art, the whole poetry of being a musician, is finally to come up with fingering and bowing that fits to you and fits to the music. The easiest way for a teacher is to give the student a book with fingering and bowing and say, take it, memorize it, and play like me. What I figured out, now you do. I'm not that kind of teacher, not that kind of musician, so I try to teach my students and myself that the exploration, the journey, is what's important. So fingering, the first and foremost, of course, it's comfort. You know, if you play, just today, this morning, I had a lesson with somebody who played, just come up to my mind, played F sharp with the third finger, and then she went to F natural with the first finger. Now that's not the position. So that's something that irritates me. I would always go. Yeah, of course, later on, I will look for fingerings that match musically. Next level, when you go to thumb position, what I like to call the GPS. So my thumb I treat as a GPS, like let's say if I'm on D and A, I call it the street number. This is the street name, sorry, it's D and A, and then every finger that I will put in this street will be a house number, like I'm on A Street, and I go to visit F sharp house, or E house, or D house. Whatever it is, it's within that street. So it's very important for me if I play a piece and I can be in a street, to be in that street and not to try to move between streets and to jump around. So comfort is number one. However, and that's where it becomes interesting, we know that each finger creates a different color. So for instance, if I play a B flat with the second finger, I call it the gold medal finger, because it's the most warm, juicy, wonderful sound. First finger, not as much. Third finger, also good, not as much. Fourth finger, the worst. Even if you work really hard on it, it will never be the same as this one. So naturally, if I play a piece and I get to what I call an arrival note of a phrase, I would like to be on a warm finger for that arrival note. I wouldn't do to a fourth finger. I would go to the warmest finger I can within that street, within that position. So it's important to find out fingerings that fits for you, yes, for your hand, that fits in the position, in the street you're in, but finally, musically, fingers that fits musically. So I remember now talking about the second finger when I was really many years ago, a little boy, I played for Misha Maisky, and I played the E minor sonata. And he told me about the second finger being the gold medal, and he basically made me play the whole main theme with the second finger. I remember like this, just to make a point. Of course, but he does a So it's not just comfort, it's to use the fingers that you really think will give you the most beautiful sound for that note. Of course, we can go to extreme or not, but we don't want to just be comfortable, we want to also be expressive. Another example, Brahms' Trio Opus 8, the beginning, a big cello solo. Start it with 1 and 3, which is comfortable, or do you want to start it with 2, which will be even warmer? And maybe after, instead of 1, 3, maybe you want to slide. Yeah, so I start with 2, and then I can increase the vibrato and make a tiny slide to the A sharp. So all those decisions are purely musical, purely musical. And technically, you want to make sure that you're comfortable, so you play in tune and you feel good about creating the sound. But at the end of the day, the music is important.
And he was also asking about the bowing.
Yeah, bowing. So with bowing, I know that I'm quite different than other people. I think very firmly, and I know that people contradict that, but I think that a cello bow is not a musical bow. I think that when a composer writes a bow, it's a musical bow. It's intentionally to be a musical phrase, not necessarily a cello bow. And the fact that we have the same word for it, bow and bow, does not mean it's the same, because then how do pianists do that? When pianists play legato, they use different techniques than a cello bow to make legato. So if a composer writes, let's say Schumann, writes 4 bars in one bow, in one musical bow, I don't know any cellist in the world that can play that in one cello bow and to sound good. I remember with Greenhouse, with my teacher, with Beethoven, which usually Beethoven we treat like a god, you know, everything that's written inside we have to do. So I remember learning studying the triple concerto with him, and this famous theme. So I asked him, you know, what bowings are you doing there? And he said, you know, it's written in one bow, but when I sit in the Concertgebouw in front of 2,000 people, do you think I'm going to be choked? So he played so his bow was freely moving in that theme in order to create beauty of sound for a big hall. So it was very practical to see that, and he did it in many other occasions, and that was probably the most important lesson for me as a cellist. Another example, Beethoven 4. Yes, it's one bow. Good luck doing this in Carnegie Hall in front of 3,000 people in one cello bow. It's one musical bow. It's one intention musically. So if you change well, it could sound like one phrase, one musical intention, but would actually be 2 cello bows. Now when we go lower on the cello, when we go to a string that really requires speaking, when you play, when you need to speak with less bow, it's very hard. Sometimes we have, again, I go back to Beethoven number 4, the end of the sonata, we have those 8 notes in two bows. That's what it says. No, it's unison with the piano. I don't know how you can do it and be heard, and the pianist, they play and you hear taka 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 tam, even if it's legato. When a cellist play on G and C string, fast. So if you do that, but your intention is to play legato, taka 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 tam, it sounds, so you can hear it, it's similar to piano technique, sounds like a duo. It has the musicality, the direction, and you can be heard. So people who paid money to hear you, they can actually hear you, not just see you. So that's my belief on it. I know that many times my students will come back from a chamber music coaching, and they'll play Schubert trio, like. This, of course, it has 2 bars in one bow. And the coach, which usually is not a cellist, not even a string player, will tell them, oh my God, Schubert wrote 1 bow, you have to do it. So they come and then they play the concert. They try to play it in 1 bow because Schubert wanted it. Now, I don't think it's a cello bow, and I don't think Schubert could do it. So I always tell my students, next time it happens, take your cello, give it to the coach and ask them to show you how to do it. So maybe there's a secret I don't know. I know one cellist who can do it. It's Niklas Perny, one of the cellists I admire. He can really sustain it and grow with the sound. But even here, I go back to Greenhouse, who started a bow because he wanted to bring this. So he did 2 bows. Schubert didn't mind. And we love his recording, so I think it's good. That's just my take on it.
Alondra Gonzalez Mesa is asking, what exercises do you recommend for a relaxed position?
A relaxed position. So maybe you didn't hear the beginning of the lesson, but depend what relaxed position. So the way I treat our approach to the instrument is that first of all, the cello is becoming part of us. We don't become part of the cello. The cello, in order for us to feel freely, to be human, this piece of wood has to become part of our daily routine. Which means if you eat, drink, take stuff, move, if you do these motions without the cello will have to incorporate into those motions. So before even playing the cello, just to take this thing, treat it as a human that you hug. If you hug, there's a welcoming feeling rather than this. There's a welcoming feeling when we hug. It's a very natural feeling. So maybe the first thing I will do when I practice is in the midst of the hardest spot in the repertoire. You play and you don't like what you're doing and it's difficult, stop. Hug your cello. And both physically and philosophically feel that you love your cello, like you really hug your cello as if it's a person. That feeling of hug, when you look at your body, you see your shoulders down, elbows right here, that's already a great starting point. So I look at it like this. There are 4 fundamentals for our approach to the instrument, which means we're always bouncy. We're never like this in real life, unless we want our back to hurt. So straight back but bouncy. Whatever we do, write computer, play tennis, whatever we do, back is bouncy. Elbows are always planted down with gravitation, unless we hold them. Now, for a second I can hold my elbow, but then put it back down. It's not comfortable. Body movement. When I move one part of my body, the other parts will react. And finally, breathing. Breathing is something that we do constantly. That's how we stay alive. We inhale oxygen and exhale. This has to be free. So those 4 fundamentals, bouncing lower back, body movement, elbows, and breathing, should be at all time, no matter what you do with this, should be activated. All the time. All 4 of them. No matter what note you play. The note D, you can verbalize. You can say bouncing lower back, body movement, elbows, breathing. Now if I play high D, same note, just many octaves higher. Same thing, bouncing lower back, body movement, elbows, breathing. So I always feel comfortable, really. There's not second on the cello that we should feel tension. Musically, yes, a lot, but not physically. So that's number 1, the approach or the comfort with the instrument. Then comes, of course, the athletism. So being a musical athlete, as I like to call it, what do we do as athletes to make walking, running, and jumping easy? And what do we do to make this wind-like movement free? That's basically what it is. So how do we walk? I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but when we walk, we always put 1 foot on the ground and we lift the previous one up. That's how we advance ourselves forward. There's always a circular motion of the knee, and we put the feet down and we lift the previous one. So if I compare this to the cello, I have 5, so I'm like a spider cellist. I have 5 legs. See? So I put the second leg down. Now I'm going to put the third leg down of my spider cello. I cannot just put it down. I mean, I can, but it would be tight. What I do, I lift it up before I put it down. Then I put it down. What do I do with the first? I bring it up. That's it. That's walking. So I walk. That's walking upwards. Walking backwards on the cello, we don't do it in life so much. We don't walk backward in the street. But on the cello we do. And many cellists do, I think, something wrong by lifting up the finger and keeping the tension. in the hand. So walking backwards, in my language, is gently pitching your finger back home. So I lift it up on the way up and I pitch it back home gently. Yeah, so if I walk, I go up and I go back down. So my fingers are at all time in this home, natural human posture, human position. In order to keep them there, I need to lift them away when I'm done with them, and I need to go backward so I can pitch them back home rather than keep them up in the air with tension, or even up thinking there's no tension. It's not human. Now there's jumping. What do we do when we jump? If I have to jump from here to there, I can do it from the same spot, just jumping with straight knees, jumping. I will not get far enough. I can prepare with my knees, so I can bounce my knees like the lower back when we play the cello. And I can even more so take a few steps back, run, and prepare myself. So the preparation is what we call shift or motion. So shift for us is a jump. If I run or walk here and I want to jump here to the fourth position, I can do it like this without preparation, or I can just prepare myself and jump. How much preparation? Depending how far I have to go. If I have to go a half step, like a tiny jump. So my elbow, which is my cello knee, let's call it the cello knee, my elbow will do just a very gentle kick upward. Backwards. But if I want to jump a big jump, I need a big preparation, otherwise how will I get there? So this is really to sum up what we do with the left hand besides the decoration part, which is the vibrato, which is to decorate the music. When we create the notes, we either walk, run, or jump between places that we walk and run. That's it. The bow creates sound. The portion of sound for me is combined of three elements. It's like if you're a sound magician or a witch, let's call you the witch of sound. You go to the market of sound and you buy three ingredients. You buy weight, you buy movement, and you buy location. Where do you put the bow between the fingerboard and the bridge? How much weight you're going to put on it, and therefore how much movement you're going to move in order to move that amount of weight. That's the portion of sound. Whatever comes out is the combination of the three. So if you, for instance, on a low string, use too much speed and not enough weight, you create fluffy sound, like this. However, on a low string, if you use more weight and less speed, same spot, you create beauty. Now, if you go to the same note on a high string, different ingredients. I mean, same ingredients, different amount. So the weight, not so much on A string, because what will happen? We don't want that. So you put less weight, same spot, less weight, much more speed. So it doesn't matter where you are, you always feel comfortable. Less speed, more speed. Yeah? So that's really, in 2 minutes, to try to explain in a very simple way what we do. First of all, generally, embracing the cello into our body, and then how to be a musical athlete, how to walk, how to run, how to jump between places that we run and walk, and how to create the sound.
So Lasar is asking, how do you work on intonation and clarity in fast passages? For example, Haydn C major concerto third movement.
How do you work on clarity? So first of all, again, there are a few layers to how to do it. First of all, if you go back to the beginning of the session, I try to find and master the street I am in. So in Haydn C, let's say, I don't know your fingering, but let's assume it's my fingering. So I would start it here on D string, yeah? But when I'm here on D string with the second finger on Do, on C, my thumb or my street, the street I'm on, is E and A. So when I start hide and seek third movement, so when I go to the next position, to the next street, what do I do? What do I do in my practice? I make sure that the skeleton of this passage is street E and A, going to street, can't hear you, G and C. So I'm moving between. That's the skeleton of the beginning of hide and seek third movement. Now within this skeleton we're going to put the body. Okay, so first we work slow on identifying the skeleton of each passage. That's the Do. Now I'm going to go to D. But when I'm on D, in the skeleton, in my GPS, my computer is actually Do and Sol. G and C. Now once I'm in G and C street, there are many houses in this street. Look, actually there are 12. But look, I'm going to visit. 1. Those are all houses within this street. So if I want to make them clean, before I go to the passage, just clean, I find the street and I play each house number with the street I'm in. Let's say 4 balls. Is completely clean and comfortable. Then I have to compare the speaking quality here to the notes. So I have to match the creation of sound to the notes. Now it's going to be really fast, so instead of singing, I'm going to talk. When I talk, I'm using my tongue. Hello, how are you? My tongue is doing this, tak, 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 tak. So I need to figure out what in my hand is doing this, tak, 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 which is my fingers. So I call my right hand fingers the cello tongue. And I need to develop flexibility and motion in these fingers so I can speak. Remember one of my greatest teachers, Lawrence Lesser, at NEC many years ago, told me to hold a pencil and to play with it all day, to move between the fingers, to activate the tongue of the cello. So once I found the skeleton, now I'm going to try to activate the tongue. It might not sound good because I'm not using air. See it in the, I'm just activating my tongue on each note, on each house number. Now if I want it to sound better, of course I'll add a little bit of air. So what I'm doing, I'm trying to find out first of all what part of my cello mouth, which is my entire right arm, what part of it will do the talking for me, and then I activate it, and then I have to match it to the left hand because I have to work together. So what I do, I will never practice something fast, slow, because it's a waste of time unless I want to clean it. But I will not do, that's not going to do anything because it's not reality. Reality is that we're going to use 1 millimeter of bow. How do we do it? Rhythms. But everything that I do now, I'm using the same amount of bow that I will be using in real tempo. I'm just using it slowly, but it's the same amount, and that's the main thing. When you practice matching the two hands, the two instruments that we play, really important that you practice it slow but with the same amount of bow.
Sasha Krisan is asking,
Sasha!
I'm now practicing Peabody Caprice in F major. Any tips on the Ricochet up bows?
Just don't do it, it's too difficult. Why are you practicing it? You're done with school. Well, same with Ricochet up bow. What I would recommend, Sasha, is to practice it, to stage reality on the string, which means in the sound ingredient to put more weight on the cello, and then to just lift the weight, but to do the same thing. So if you put weight on the cello and you sort of scratch it, and you just do this on the string. Now I'm just going to let go. That's it. So if you see, I don't know if you see it from the camera, what I'm doing with my hand, I give one kick to the pernambuco, to the wood, and it jumps. To practice it, each one with my fingers. Now I'm going to give a kick to the bow to jump. So a good exercise for you would be to do 2 and 2. Or similar even to Piatti's, to do 4 and 4. And that will allow you to be free when you make the ricochet. But don't just practice it, and again, not staging reality. So I hope this helps. But you can do it also in scales. Play. It's not the most beautiful sound, what you're doing, you're activating the cello time, which is really, I think, crucial for all that stuff.
Heather Mosley says, do you have any tips for feeling comfy in thumb position when you have a semitone, halftone, between thumb and first finger, especially in fast passages? Thanks.
Yeah, that's a question that we always deal with. Students come in and say, oh, I understand the thumb position, but if I put the first, I have to break it, and it's so hard, it's so... And then they explain to me for an hour, oh, it's so difficult. And I say, can you drop your elbow, please? Ah, okay. So the starting point, and what I always tell people, even though there's some famous cellists, there's some famous great cellists that play and break their finger and do it very well, nobody in the world can tell me that this is human, that this is something that we do in life other than on the cello. I strongly believe that we don't need to do it. Some people say, I'm double jointed. I have to do it. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think if you hold an apple like this and not like this, if you hold your pencil, you just hold it and write and not this, you can probably do it on the cello. So the best way to find it is to go to the street of A and D, where you don't have to press the thumb. And then what we did in the beginning of the lesson, where we are not going to press, we're going to play. It's going to sound really scratchy because there's no harmonic on B flat. But I'm just going to put it and not press it down, okay? So I have a D and the B flat. Now I'm not pressing. I'm honest to God, if you would be here, you would see the string is not down. The B flat is actually almost there. Many times we press it like crazy. We don't need to. We need to gently touch the string in thumb position. It will be a note. So, adjustment. Thumb position is one street. That's a taxi driver that takes you, let's say, to A and D. There are many alleys and streets and houses within this street. You have to adjust your arm inside the street to fit every position. So, there are many exercises to do it. I would show you one. I call it combined double stops. So, you play a 6. Now, in this position of the 6, I can always, no matter what I play, if I take my hand away from the cello and I look inside it, it's like binocular. It has to look round, because that's what you would do with your hand anyway. You know, you wouldn't do this. So, in any given second that I lift my hand from thumb position or any position, and I look through, it should look round, sort of human. So that's a 6. I'm going to go and play a 4th, which is much harder. Now, if I keep the same posture of my arm, it's going to hurt. If I do, can't do it. So I'm going to find an adjustment with my elbow. I release my wrist. And finally minor 6. each double stop, just to sum it up, is a different position. Like Greenhouse used to tell me, each finger is a position by itself. Which means if you're playing C and A flat, see, I'm adjusting, I'm supporting the A flat with my entire palm of my hand and the arm, so it will be binocular, it will be human. If you do it every single day and you force yourself to adjust the arm rather than your joints here, you can do it. You can do it with a giant, humongous hand like mine, or with a tiny hand. I've seen it all done. It's possible. It takes a lot of practice. First to know the street, and then to adjust the house number. That's really important. How to adjust it? Mainly with the elbow. With the elbow and arm, not with the joints of the fingers. Because once you start doing this stuff, it's less control of vibrato, it's less fluid agility of your fingers around the fingerboard. So that's my recommendation, and of course to play double stop. So to play, let's say you do a chromatic scale of minor 6. There's always a point somewhere where you will find, shh, I'm doing this. That note is where you need to look and further away from the cello. Say, what do I do wrong here? Why do I have to break my wrist right here on this note? Find a way, the cello, your elbow, the end pin, whatever it is, each body is a little different, to keep this, which is, I call it a jellyfish. You know, just keep the jellyfish a jellyfish, life will be good as a cellist. Yeah? So that might help you with, and I know it's a problem. One of the passages in Dvořák, it's not a minor, it's a major 6. And I find many students struggling with it. So this relationship, really important to understand that the sound, the passion, the power of it is not done here. Here you just hang. Here you create the sound. So even in the most passionate moment with thumb position, all you do here is you take the jellyfish and you place it on the cello, and then you hang. That's it. No need to break a finger if you're just hanging on a string.
Amina is asking, is it possible to learn cello online from scratch?
Is it possible to learn cello online? I don't know. I mean, my kids are now doing more and more online. I think in a few years, people will just stay at home, do everything online. I mean, you do shopping online, you do dating online. That was not my generation. I used to go and talk to a girl if I liked her. Now you have to check her up. So, I don't know. I do, besides cello, I do most of my life, like I buy everything on Amazon. Is it possible to learn cello online from scratch? I don't think so. I've never done it, and I actually refuse to teach Skype lessons also, because I like to have human contact. I like to be next to a person and to explain to them, to see the joy in their eyes, in their smile, when they realize what happens with the instrument. As I said before, the instrument is becoming part of your body. And if I'm not able to feel who you are, of course we're not allowed to touch and all that, but to feel, to smell, to hear you breathe, it's not human contact. And think about it, we're dealing with music that is 400 years old, 300 years old, and people used to communicate differently back then. I think our profession, I'll be talking to you from a university, I don't know if there's any other profession in the high education in the world where it's still one-on-one, like music. My students and I see each other 4 times a month, one-on-one, nobody in the room. One-on-one, it's very intimate in a way that you can really go deep into the problems of each other and create something together. On Skype, I just know how, it's like you would ask me, is it possible to have a relationship with somebody online and then have a family and so on? It sounds a little weird to me. However, I don't know where you live, and I don't know where stage you are in with the cello. I'm sure that online material, online videos, online lessons could really help you to a point that you will get much better. The top of the cake, the strawberry at the top, I still believe it's human. having an advice like we do now, learning how somebody else from a different country think of the culture of their approach to the instrument, it's amazing. I wish I would have it when I was young. So the answer is a little bit complex and mixed. I wouldn't want to study only online, but I think it helps a lot to get advice and ideas. Same as it helps a lot to go to watch a video of Rostropovich now, even though he's dead and you can never hear him live anymore, but everything is on YouTube. You can learn so much by it. So I hope that you can do both. If you are learning now online, or if your son or daughter learning online, I hope you can do both, the combination of both.
Okay, and one last question from Helene Duplessis.
Helene.
Hi Amit, could you explain your bow angling circle shapes in first hour, please?
Yes, the bow angling. So the way I try to explain it is, if you take your right hand and you lift it and you put it on your A string, which is the highest string, you have to approach it. Yeah. Now, if you just put your hand on the top and you tell yourself or your student, okay, now drop it back. Just drop it. You drop it. You put it back on. Drop it. So what you're realizing is that the higher you go, the bigger the circle you will do with your hand to go back home to human posture. So if I go to C string and back, it's almost a straight line. There's nothing. G string, a little higher. D, a little higher. A, now imaginary E string, a cup in the cupboard to put on the table would be really huge. So if this is a motion, why do we always study to be parallel to the bridge? The motion, the parallel motion to the bridge is not human. It's not human. So if you take your bow and you place it on the A string, you already go higher than normal. Now to just bring it back, to bring your hand back from a frog position on A, just back home, you will create a circle. Unless you're pushing it back to do a parallel, but that's not human. So if you want your bow not to be tight when you play a down bow, and you're on A string, you want to have a little angle. So if I have, I like to have stuff in the room that I can refer to. So like my cello case over there would be a down bow on A string, and this chair over here, maybe you can see it, would be the up bow, the beginning of the up bow. So what I'm doing, I'm creating a number, an infinite number, number 8. How the shape of this number 8 is different for each human because we have different size. For me to go to the cupboard and take a glass and then put it on the table would be a bigger circle than for Esther, who sits right here and is reading the questions for me. So we cannot do the same with the bow. However, we both have to recognize that the beginning of a down bow on A string is not parallel and straight if we want the sound to work. So as I go down, now down bow on D string, a little smaller circle, more like shape of an egg. Now G string is almost a straight line. And C string, straight line. Now C string, because of its place, has, I think, different rules. So the C string, if I go out on it, which is really not normal, if I do the circular motion, listen to the sound, I'm not pressing anything, nothing. Now, same amount of weight, honest to God, I change the angle and I get sound. It's like a miracle. So for me to have this pushing back, pulling back hand on C string creates a beauty of sound and core of sound. However, if I do the same on A string, look, same pushing back. Now I'll do the angle. Miracle. Down. Down. So in the first hour I have an exercise where we play a note on C string. Then we play it on A string, which is different angle. C string, A, C, A. So when you play a repertoire, when you play Prokofiev, I remember Prokofiev playing. See, I'm always just aiming my bow to the C. However, if I'm here, so that G is completely out. And the up bow, I go inside. Again, how much of it? Your ear is your judge. but just to understand the physics of it, that you go out in a certain amount, depending on your length of the arm, and then when you go in the other direction. It's usually a very awkward 8 number going to sleep. Like for me, it would be like big, tiny, big, tiny. For other people, it would be tiny, big. Yeah. However, it's not straight. I think that's the wrong or misconception. So I think that's it for today. That was a fun CappuCello, and now I'm going to finish my cappuccino. And we'll see you in the next time. I think it's going to be March 20th or March 21st. If you have more questions, just write them as comments, and I will try to get back to you. If not, see you on March 20th in CappuCello. And I think after March 20th, if we see that there are many questions and requests, we will have it more regular, like once a week. Another thing I want to say is that I'm fortunate and privileged to be part of an amazing community of musicians here at Peabody in Baltimore. If any of you have a request to talk, to ask questions, one of our musicians, Marian Also, Leon Fleischer, Alexander Fitterstein next door, great clarinetist, Manuel Barueco, all of them, please write to me. I will do my best to prepare a cappuccino for them too. They will just show up in one of our sessions and we can ask them questions. So we can use this time for the entire world maybe to know this amazing vast of knowledge and emotions and music making that we have here in this building, which is the oldest conservatory in America. So take care and see you in the next time.